Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought that I would review a couple videos that I personally found very particularly interesting. And this is going to be a video that I'm first going to review by Dante's Boxing Nation. And this is going to be overall the analyzation and the fight overall review that Dante overall ended up putting out. And I thought that I would do this once again to really talk a little bit more and go into a little bit more depth about the Hector Garcia versus Gervonta Tank Davis fight. But the fight pretty much is everything that I expected. The fight ended up happening pretty much exactly like I said it would. Gervonta Tank Davis, in my opinion, like I said, I believe anyway, that he somewhat carried Hector Garcia and that he probably was not going full pace and that he probably was not going 100% to make the event a little bit more entertaining and competitive, more than likely than what it probably would have been had Gervonta Tank Davis, at least in my view, went at it 100%. And of course, like I said, he was probably going to stop him anywhere from round 6 to round 9, which is exactly what happened. But anyways, Dante is going to talk about the Hector Garcia versus Gervonta Tank Davis fight. I just thought that it would be interesting because this is going to be my opportunity to once again kind of break it down into a little bit more depth. And then after that, we're going to review a video by BoxingEgO, who is going to talk about the potential Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Tank Davis fight, which apparently is set up, I believe, for April. And I do believe now that that is a great, great fight that very clearly is going to be the biggest fight of both of their careers. And it's going to be very interesting to see who ends up winning that fight. Will they end up being any higher on the pound-for-pound list because of that win? We'll see, because in my opinion, whoever is the winner of that fight, they could debatably be on the top 10 pound-for-pound list. But because overall Gervonta Tank Davis, at the moment anyway, is not on my current top 10 pound-for-pound list, and Ryan Garcia is nowhere near that, in my opinion, I'm not really sure where I would rank them. But nonetheless, it still is a very, very decent fight. But anyways, Dante is going to talk about his little fight review. Let's get into it.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Gervonta Tank Davis, he stops Hector Garcia after the 8th round. Davis, he made Hector Garcia quit. Gervonta, he hit Hector in the 8th round with a really hard left hand, and it looked like an actual knockdown, but the referee didn't call it. Hector would get caught with another hard left right before the bell.
I don't believe that Hector Garcia actually was ever touching the canvas. I just think all in all that he got really shaken up, and I only knew that it was a matter of time once again because Hector Garcia has very terrible defense. It just is what it is. And this is what I kept saying, but, well, we're going to save that a little bit overall for the latter part of the video.
And he went to his corner and told his team that after he got hit with that left hand, he lost vision in his eye temporarily, causing the fight to be stopped. With all that being said, I told you guys, if Hector Garcia goes into this fight fighting at range, trying to fight similar to the way Rolly Romero fought, is going to be a very competitive fight. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. You definitely have to give credit to Hector because he was fighting a really...
It was a competitive fight, but in my opinion, really only because Gervonta Tank Davis wanted it to be. And some people overall, once again, they will completely disagree with that. But Gervonta Tank Davis, he's shown me in the past that he pretty much can fight almost in any range. The only fighter that I actually truly believe was giving him a great amount of problems when he actually was trying in the fight was against Mario Barrios. Now, who knows? Maybe Gervonta Tank Davis is just a slow starter. But what I'll say is this. If this version of Gervonta Tank Davis shows up against Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson or Vasily Lomachenko, and overall he fights like this, I'm not sure if he beats any of them. And I like Gervonta Tank Davis, but if this is him legitimately going at 100% capacity, that's not going to be good enough against a lot of those top guys.
Intelligent fight. He wasn't wasting too many punches. Hector knew that Gervonta was looking for the counter. So Hector wouldn't really initiate too many attacks because he did not want to be open for the counter. What he would do instead is he would throw little pity-pat shots, and every once in a while, he would throw something hard when Gervonta would least expect it. It took Gervonta about 2 rounds to really feel Hector Garcia out and really get going. But after those first 2 rounds, Gervonta, he started to apply more pressure on Hector, and this is what impresses me with Gervonta Tank Davis. The fact that Hector Garcia, when he was fighting against Little B-Hop Chris Colbert, he was comfortable fighting him on the inside, fighting a very aggressive fight with Chris Colbert. But when it came to Gervonta Tank Davis,
Well, of course he was comfortable fighting on the inside with that of Chris Colbert because Chris Colbert ain't got no power. And on top of that, his defense is very leaky. he really had no threat overall to that of Hector Garcia whatsoever. There was nothing that little B-Hop Chris Colbert could really do, or Chris Colbert, whatever the hell his name is, however you pronounce his name. There was really nothing that he could threaten him with. I knew all in all that if Hector Garcia, that if he was going to try to pressure Gervonta Tank Davis all in all, that, Gervonta was basically just going to turn up the pressure. And every single time overall, every single time that Hector Garcia really tried to throw with Gervonta Tank Davis and really tried to be on the inside, Gervonta would basically throw heat back. And that's why, in my view, I think more than likely that Gervonta Tank Davis was not going at 100%. So it is what it is.
Tay was actually backing Hector Garcia up. And just to show you how much respect Hector had for Garcia's power, there were times, at least later on in the fight, where Gervonta, as he got more and more aggressive, he's coming forward, hitting Hector with bombs. I'm expecting Hector to try to come right back and retaliate the way he usually did when he was in the ring with Chris Colbert and the champion at the time, Roger Gutierrez. But he couldn't.
Well, once again, that shows that you really don't know a whole lot about boxing. And it just is what it is. Whenever a bully fighter, which is pretty much what Hector Garcia is a bully fighter. If you know what you're watching, all in all, once again, Hector Garcia really doesn't have much outside of overall trying to outpressure you. Now, in my opinion, he did have a very good game plan of trying to outbox him in range and then at times turn up the pressure. I think that was the perfect game plan. The problem is that Hector Garcia is not the type of fighter to really perform that. And that's why I stated in my fight review that, in my opinion, I believe that Hector Garcia would have benefited overall from pressuring him a little bit more. Now, I still think that it would have been great to work behind the jab and then move in and out and box a little bit at range, but mainly try to overwhelm Gervonta Tank Davis, because Hector Garcia, with his hands always being down and with his lack of defense when it comes down to it, he's not really going to be super successful when trying to keep Gervonta Tank Davis at range. And that's why we've seen Gervonta Tank Davis being able to counter him, out-counter him the majority of the time in the fight. Hector Garcia is not the type of fighter to perform that type of game plan. Now, Ryan Garcia or Devin Haney could potentially try to do that type of game plan, but Hector Garcia is not that type of fighter. He's a guy that he has to mainly put pressure on you, or overall he's not mainly going to be that successful, especially if you're one of the elite fighters out there, which Gervonta Tank Davis is.
Do that with you.
And we've seen the same thing in other certain fights against bully fighters. When Deontay Wilder, who mainly is used to being the bully and the pressure fighter, when Fury was actually finally able to push him back, Wilder was so perplexed and overall that he was so shocked that someone had actually dared to push him forward. He didn't know what to do with himself. And it was also a little bit of the same with Gennady Golovkin. Now, Golovkin, of course, has much better boxing pedigree than what Deontay Wilder had. But that's why in the rematch against Canelo, when Canelo Alvarez came forward, Gennady Golovkin was a little bit more limited than what he's used to, because Gennady needs a little bit more of that pressure rhythm to be successful. Because when Canelo Alvarez shown his true power, just like Gervonta Tank Davis did in this fight, and when he was ripping to the body and hitting him with certain counters that other fighters did not do, Gennady Golovkin said, uh-oh, this is going to be a little bit tougher than I thought. He's not intimidated by my power. He's not intimidated by my pressure like some of these other fighters are going to be. So overall, now I'm going to have to be in a little bit more of an uncomfortable spot, and that's exactly what happened yesterday.
Because he understood as soon as he tries to let his hands go, he's going to be open for even more punches. This is what
exactly, and because overall, once again, he doesn't have the boxing IQ nor the boxing skills overall to really, once again, outbox Gervonta Tank Davis at range, or overall keep his hands up sometimes in the pocket. He was never going to beat someone like a Gervonta Tank Davis. It's not going to happen.
What makes Gervonta so special? Even if he's the predator, even if he's the aggressor chasing a fighter down, he's still outlanding his opponent. Hector Garcia, he said before the fight that it was going to be a war. But Gervonta was the only one trying to make this fight a war, because Hector Garcia, they're going to...
Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I think that Hector Garcia at moments tried to make the fight a war. But once he really turned up the pressure, and once Gervonta Tank Davis said, oh, okay, you're going to go full capacity on me, I'm going to throw some shit back at you, Hector Garcia really could not compete. Because once again, he has very little defense. His hands are always down. And on top of that, he doesn't really watch out for certain incoming punches. Once again, that shit could work against little B-Hop, because Chris Colbert is a very flawed fighter. He also has a very leaky defense. His punches are really not that straight or not that crisp. And on top of that, he doesn't really have a lot of power to threaten you with. Gervonta Tank Davis is the exact opposite. He can fight you from any range. His power is A+. He can hurt you with any punch out there. His defense is very, very good. there was just really nothing that Hector Garcia was ever going to be able to threaten Gervonta Tank Davis with.
War with Gervonta Tank Davis would have got him knocked out a lot earlier. Considering how good Hector Garcia is as a fighter, I'm really impressed with Gervonta Tank.
He's not really that good as a fighter. But of course Dante once again is going to try to hype him up because of course Gervonta is one of his boys. And listen, don't get me wrong, Gervonta obviously is a very talented fighter, but Hector Garcia is really not that good of a fighter. He's basically just your basic pressure fighter all in all that is quite one-dimensional. I mean, he fought a little bit better on the back foot than what I predicted, but once again, he's not going to be able to do that against the elite fighters. He can't do that overall. Like, even if you were to talk about certain other fighters like Vasily Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, and Jermaine Ortiz, they were able to have a little bit of success against Lomachenko with overall pressuring him, but also boxing a little bit in the mid-range overall and somewhat a little bit on the back foot. But Hector Garcia would not be able to do that against Lomachenko because he's not really that multi-dimensional. He has very, very terrible defense when it comes down to it. I think that he was boxing behind the jab somewhat decently well, but like I said, he doesn't move in and out to the degree that he needs to, and his defense is absolutely awful. So he's not really going to beat anyone elite in his career. Now, could he maybe beat someone like an Isaac Pitbull Cruz or a Rolly Romero? He might be able to beat someone like that, but even then, I'm not quite sure.
Davis knockout win. I can tell you right now, if Hector Garcia gets in the ring with any of the other top lightweights, he's going to give all of them hell, and he's going to beat a lot of them. Imagine Hector Garcia fighting against a Rolly Romero, a Gervonta Tank Davis, a George Kambosos, a Teofimo Lopez, or even an Isaac Cruz. There's a very good chance that Hector would beat a lot of those fighters. So I
don't know if he beats any of those fighters. I don't know if Hector Garcia beats any of those fighters. I don't think that he's really that good. But that's my view. Just is what it is. Once again, I think he needs to rely a lot on his power. And I think he needs to rely a lot on his pressure. And if he doesn't mainly have that, he's going to be severely limited.
Forward to seeing Hector Garcia against some of the other top lightweights. And I really look forward to what will be a mega fight this year, Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia in April. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next. All right, now check this out, guys.
But anyways, that's pretty much about it for the Dante's Boxing Nation breakdown. I just thought that I would talk about that because, once again, I thought that I would break down why I think certain things occurred in the fight. Once again, Hector Garcia is another pressure fighter. He's another bully fighter. He's basically another fighter that if he's not able to bully you, at least mainly, then he's not really mainly in his zone. Now, once again, of course, he was trying to outbox Gervonta Tank Davis on the range, and that a little bit helped out. Of course, it was a decent game plan, but like I said, that's not really overall what he's meant to do. And that's the reason overall why a lot of the times Gervonta was able to hit him with counters, and that's why a certain amount of the times, he looked decent in the beginning of the fight, but that's why eventually Gervonta Tank Davis, he was able to incrementally break him down. Hector Garcia is not usually meant to outbox opponents on the back foot. Now, could he maybe do that against someone like a Rolly Romero? He might be able to do that against someone like a Rolly Romero or someone who's a lesser fighter, but against the elite fighters, he can't do that. So, it is what it is. But anyways, that's really about it overall for this little breakdown. Let's now go on to Mr. Boxing Ego to see what he has to say about the potential Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Tank Davis fight. Alright, so this is going to be the second part of the video. This is going to be the Boxing Ego talking about the Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Tank Davis fight, which I thought was very particularly interesting. And what I will say is this. At one point in time, I thought that maybe Ryan Garcia, that he pretty much would be Gervonta Tank Davis's lunch. But actually taking a look at it at the current moment in time with some of the improvements that Ryan Garcia has made, and on top of that, with Gervonta Tank Davis, with me not really being sure if he's really quite as impressive as what I once thought he was, or maybe if he's just not fighting at 100%, what I'll say is this. If Gervonta Tank Davis fights the way that he did in that fight against Hector Garcia and the past couple of fights, Ryan Garcia is going to have a real chance to win this fight. So we'll see what happens. And it's also going to be very particularly interesting because Ryan Garcia has real A-grade power. I'm not even just talking about power that's very decent. Ryan Garcia pretty much is almost on the same level as Gervonta Tank Davis. If he hits you with a good solid punch, he can knock your ass out. There's no doubt about it. I've seen overall, once again, him knock out fighters with very good punches. Now, I don't think all in all that he has the best of resumes, but you can tell that he has very devastating knockout power. very devastating knockout power. So it's going to be very interesting. But anyways, Mr. Ego's going to talk. Let's see what he has to say.
Ryan Garcia claims he will knock out Gervonta Davis in 2 rounds when they fight. That's what I want to talk about. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I am back with some more boxing. Y'all know what to do. Smash the like button. Y'all know what this is. Gervonta Davis is Ryan Garcia's target. He chose to forego a tune-up, and he did an interview with the Joe Pomp Show. He says, quote, "Prediction for the fight. I say I'll beat him in 2 rounds. Part of me knows that I am just better than him. What I've seen from him, what I know about myself, what I know they are underestimating just by the way he speaks and just how he fights. But my main thing is that I don't think he's really ever stood or understood adversity in a professional ring in his career. I think he's always had an understanding that nothing can go wrong because of the talent he's facing. I don't think he's felt."
Well, what I'll say about Gervonta Tank Davis is this, and it's also the same thing with Ryan Garcia. Both fighters have never really stepped in the ring with a fighter that I actually believe is going to truly 50-50 test them. They've all really been in the ring with fighters that more than likely, they're pretty much are going to, that they basically are going to beat, and that willingly a lot of people know that they're going to beat. But both Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Tank Davis, they have dealt with a little bit of adversity in their career. I've seen Gervonta Tank Davis deal with it in the Rolly fight, in the Mario Barrios fight, also in the Isaac Pitbull Cruz fight. Now whether Gervonta was going at 100% capacity in some of those fights, it's up for debate. But Ryan Garcia, I also seen him overall, face some adversity as well in a couple of fights, including in that Luke Campbell fight. So I can't necessarily 100% agree with Ryan Garcia. Now, do I agree that Gervonta's not facing the best of competition? Yes, but I don't think Ryan Garcia is either. So it is what it is.
Any risk in the ring? When I'm in there, obviously he knows a different level of speed and power, and I am not oblivious to the different shots that he's trying to land, which are sometimes obvious that he throws. I think he'll start facing the pressure that this is a lot harder than he may have thought, and I won't let off the gas when I feel that. But this is boxing. You have to make adjustments on the fly. This is the only what I see from the outside. On the inside is all going to play out, right? So he says, I just really don't know if he's ever felt that feeling. How do I figure this out? Because he is just way stronger than people and way faster than the opponents he's been fighting. Now, this sounds like complete cap from Ryan Garcia, let me tell you. Because
Well, I really don't think that is complete cap because I actually agree with some of the stuff that Ryan Garcia is saying. But what you can say is that it's a little bit hypocritical because Ryan Garcia, he's not really facing anyone overall with, really that great of credentials either.
in this world, a lot of times people project. And you listen to the words and how they say it and what they say in the vernacular and the linguistics, right? And you realize that it's more applicable to themselves more so than whoever they're speaking on. And I think this is one of those times where Ryan Garcia, he's saying these things and he's saying like the shoe fits on Gervonta Davis, X, Y, and Z, but everything he's saying sounds like it actually fits his career and his resume more so than.
Well, it really fits both of theirs because neither of them really overall have that great of resumes. Gervonta Tank Davis's best wins in his career are pretty much over Jose Pedraza, Hector Garcia, and Leo Santa Cruz. I'm sorry, but that is not an elite resume.
Gervonta Davis, he said he's never faced adversity, but he was in there with a guy like Isaac Pitbull Cruz, who's a relentless Mexican fighter with power that throws combos. People even liken him to the Mexican Mike Tyson.
Yes, a very one-dimensional pressure Mexican fighter, as I've always said many, many times.
Hi, I broke my back. It's spinal, right? And he fought him for several rounds with a messed up hand, one-handed.
Well, you know what? I'm actually going to have to look at that because I was watching that fight the other day, and I believe that they tried to say that Gervonta Tank Davis's left hand was broken. But it certainly seemed like Gervonta Tank Davis was trying to lace up Isaac Pitbull Cruz, especially in that with the latter rounds with a broken hand. So was it really that he had a broken hand, or was that just an excuse?
and then you see him in his very next fight. He said,
Now, who knows? It could have been the right one. I would have to do a little bit more research with that. But once again, I was watching the fight the other day, and it seemed, at least to me, that somewhat of both hands were working just fine. But I would have to see.
Pitbull Cruz demolished Gamboa, and Gamboa was back healthy and had
Right, but come on. Yuriorkis Gamboa has been done ever since Terrence Bud Crawford beat him. Like, come on, what type of point is that? Like, these are the same guys, once again, that always love to say this shit about how Canelo Alvarez allegedly faces all this weak competition. And then overall, they say, oh, well, you know, this dude faced Yuriorkis Gamboa. Gamboa has been done ever since he lost to Terrence Bud Crawford. He's been done. He's been mincemeat, chopped liver.
no injuries and couldn't keep Pitbull off him. So to me, stuff like that in front of LeBron James, who was in attendance for that particular fight, that's just off of that one fight, he's proven more to me than Ryan Garcia. Also,
I would somewhat agree with that.
fact that Gervonta Davis has been a champion in multiple divisions, something that Ryan Garcia hasn't been a true champion, right?
Well, Ryan Garcia has been an interim champion, so if you want to count that, then it pretty much is around the same level as what Gervonta Tank Davis was when he became the regular champion. I'm sorry, but once again, I don't count Gervonta Tank Davis as a multiple weight division champion. I just don't. Because a regular title, that's not a real title.
You had Floyd Mayweather when he was in Tank's corner in the Mario Barrios fight, or he was off to the side, and he was like, man, you down. You know, turn it up on him. Turn it up. You might be down on the cards. And then Tank turned it up and got a stoppage. So whatever, all that, you know, hodgepodge that Ryan Garcia said doesn't really sound like it applies to Tank. It sounds like it applies.
Well, Tank overall has dealt with a little bit of adversity, and that's one thing overall that I'll say. He's shown that he can come back in a fight. But the real question is going to be, what is he going to do against fighters that can actually handle him? The Ryan Garcias, the Teofimo Lopez's, the Vasily Lomachenkos, the Devin Haney's, the Shakur Stevensons. We've not seen Gervonta Tank Davis in the ring with any of those fighters.
To him more so. He's also fought on bigger cards like Mayweather-McGregor, which is the second highest grossing card ever. Meanwhile, Ryan Garcia keeps saying 2 rounds, I'm going to knock him out in 2 rounds. I mean, he didn't even knock out Emmanuel Tiptoes or whatever, the African dude. He didn't knock him out at all, right?
Well, I don't think that Ryan Garcia actually believes that he's going to knock out Gervonta Tank Davis within 2 rounds. I just think that he's talking a lot of shit, just like he regularly does. But what I will say is this. Ryan Garcia is a live dog in this fight. Because the way that I see it, he is going to have a size advantage in this fight. And his power level is very similar to that of Gervonta Tank Davis. It's going to be very interesting to see how that fight occurs.
He did knock out Javier Fortuna in 2 rounds. So what makes you really, truly believe that you're going to knock out Tank, who's more of a threat and more dangerous than all them guys that you've already fought, including...
Well, we all know that Ryan Garcia, more than likely, that he's putting a little bit of an emphasis on it. We all know that. There's really no reason overall to go deeper into that. But overall, the question is that does Ryan Garcia actually have a real chance in this fight? And in my opinion, he does. And at one point in time, I didn't really think that he had a legitimate chance against the elite fighters. But looking at him more recently, he is making certain improvements. Of course, there's still flaws. I think his footwork could be a little bit better. Sometimes his chin is still a little bit too high in the air. And of course, his head movement could be a little bit better. But they're slightly improving each and every fight. And once again, his power is nothing to mess around with.
Campbell, who dropped Ryan Garcia. So I call Cap. I don't think it's believable. It's hard to say if Ryan truly believes him because I'm not Ryan Garcia.
No, I don't think Ryan Garcia believes it at all. But I think he's just saying overall to hype it up, to talk a little bit of shit, maybe to frustrate some people. I don't think he believes it himself. But overall, once again, it's going to be very interesting to see how this fight occurs.
So I don't know what another man believes totally, but from the outside looking in, it looks like he's just talking to talk. And I don't know that he truly believes it. And even if he does truly believe it, it sounds pretty delusional. That's my thoughts. Hopefully, we get the fight. Ryan, I think, is also foolish to not take a tune-up since it was already agreed that you both were going to do interim fights. Tank fights this weekend, January 7th, Showtime pay-per-view against Hector Luis Garcia. Stay tuned. I'll be back with some more hits. And I'm out.
But anyways, that's really about it for that. I just thought that was very particularly interesting. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll see over what ends up happening with that fight. But I'll talk to y'all later. Good talking. and we'll see y'all later.